same time. So I'm going to talk for a very short amount of time before I hand over to Awesome Sula and to wrap up. But in particular, I wanted to just briefly touch on radioactivity and explain how we're going to let you guys do a radioactivity experiment by remote control with the equipment at La Trobe, but you doing it from your school or from your phone or from home. So your parents can do it with you, you can do it with your teachers, you can do it on your own. Very different sort of laboratory experience to what you might be used to. And the best thing is, it's not going to cost your teachers a penny. So, radioactivity hasn't always been scary. I don't expect you to read all of the print there. A copy of this will be available to the teachers afterwards if you want it. But they used to think that radioactivity had life. You know, it's like caffeine. It makes everything exciting and vibrant and energetic. And so they used to have all these products with added radioactivity. Awesome. The Revigorator adds radioactivity to drinking water. An original radium ore patented water crock. It's a crock, all right. Results overcome doubts. The millions of tiny rays that are continuously given off by this ore penetrate the water and form this great health element, radioactivity. You know, and it slices, it dices, it turns you into a 9-year-old, gets rid of your wife. You know, it does everything. The large print giveth, and the small print taketh away. You could get a standard radioactive solution for drinking. Makes you healthy and clean on the inside. I hope none of this stuff actually was radioactive. Radium seems to appear a lot. It's a gas, natural radioactive gas. You could get radium bread. Our Eastern European friends always very much ahead of the curve on this, and so you could get the Czech Republic. There was a black bakery that specialized in radioactive bread. You could get radioactive toothpaste. You could get radioactive boot polish, because that's going to help. And you could get radioactive condoms. I am not making this up. I don't know whether they're supposed to allow you to achieve and sustain or whether they're a contraceptive. I just don't want to know. This is the pièce de résistance. This was a special radioactive warming pad that placed radionucleator in the pocket of this adapter with the window upward towards the body. Wear adapter like any athletic strap. For those of you who don't know what an athletic strap is, allow me to demonstrate. This puts the instrument under the scrotum as it should be. Wear at night. Radiate as directed. Now, some of you who are teachers might remember these shoe fitting instruments. They ran off x-rays, but they had radioactive sources inside them. And they basically took an x-ray of your kid's foot to find out what size they were. They weren't around in Melbourne for very long, but they persisted in the country for quite a long time. I can vaguely remember using one of these, and I was born in '72. There were cartoons about radioactivity. It was all very awesome. And you had pacemakers, because a pacemaker is something that goes inside your heart when your natural valves aren't working properly. And it lets the heart pump the way it should. But you've got to have a power supply in there. How do you get power? You can't walk around with a battery strapped to your hip. You can't walk around connected to the mains. So you've got a power source inside you if it's radioactivity. So they put a little bit of radioactivity inside, and they use the thermoelectric effect to generate just enough power to keep people's hearts pumping. Now, what's interesting is that they don't use these very much anymore, but the people with them have lived to a ripe old age of 80 or 90 years old. My wife, although she's now a baker, used to be a mortuary technician. It's very important if you run a crematorium to know whether or not one of these is inside the chest of your corpses. Because if it burns and you breathe in that smoke, or other people around you breathe in that smoke, that's when radioactivity can hurt, when it gets inside you. So I guess the point here is that we really want to have a working, good knowledge of radioactivity. We want to know what the pros are, what the cons are, and how to make a scientific, educated choice. That movie that was showing up earlier is called Radio Girls. Carl, can you help me out? Just bring up the thorium watches. These were young women that were being trained to paint radioactive dials on watches. And because the company was too cheap to give them decent brushes, they made them moisten the brushes to a sharp tip by putting them inside their mouth with the radioactive paint. They used to paint it on their nails. It's great, it glows in the dark. It really glows in the dark, like super, super bright. You can see all these radium watches. You can see these pictures, and they're all women, because in those days they got women to do the really, really fine, delicate, repetitive tasks, because they did it without making mistakes. And you can see that so many of those women died of cancer, cancers of the throat and the mouth, because they didn't know about radioactivity. So it's important to know what you're dealing with. If someone says, oh, this is radioactivity, but it's safe, sometimes you can believe them, like with a smoke alarm. Sometimes you can't. So what we've decided to do is to give you an experiment that allows you to work out for yourself some of the basic stuff about radioactivity, and here is a prototype of it. So this is an experiment that's sitting in the physics department of La Trobe University. That blue thing is a radiation detector. There's two platters. DJ, waka, waka, waka. Yes, you just heard that right. So on one platter, we've got radioactive sources, and Callum's now going to change from the red radioactive source to whatever radioactive source he feels like. And you can see there's this graph, and it tells you how many counts there are. And straight away, we see that there are more things happening. There are more radioactive events being detected in the detector as a result of the different source. So it tells you that that source is more active. Now, if you go on the right-hand platter, as we look at it, you can see these different absorbers. And if you put a piece of lead in the way, you'll see that the counts die off. So we have alpha particles and beta particles and gamma particles. And we have lead and we have plastic. We're still building this. The paint is still drying on this. It's a very new project for us. We're trying to work with you and your teachers to make it the best experience possible. So we would absolutely love for you to contact us and let us know what you like about the experiment. Have a go at it. At the moment, it's by invitation only. So you need to email me and I'll set up a time and we'll sort out a way for you to do it. But we would like to offer this to every school in Australia. We have a couple of partners to help us with this. Can we just go to back to the PowerPoint slide? Thanks. We have Quantum Victoria, without whom we couldn't do this at all. Thank you very much to Quantum Vic. La Trobe University, of course, and the Vice Chancellor is here, without whom we could not have done this. We also have Curtin University, James Cook University, and the Australian government have given us a substantial amount of money to be able to bring this all together, for which we are very, very grateful. And we've christened the program FAR Labs, or Freely Accessible Remote Laboratories. We have a radiation experiment like you see, and a couple of other different ones, and we're still refining them. This project is only a couple of weeks old. We also have a solar energy system on the roof, which is rigged up with 35 sensors, which you will be able to access. And we are remotely connecting to the Australian synchrotron. And we are going to be offering that as an experiment as well. So that's really an advertising pitch. But what it comes down to is allowing you guys to be informed. Because you've got to vote. Maybe not this election, maybe the next election. Who are you going to vote for? One of you is going to be a Prime Minister, maybe. The next Prime Minister of Australia is going to have to make a decision. She's going to be given a couple of options. How is she going to choose? If she's just a lawyer, without any science knowledge, how will she be able to know which of her advisors is telling pork pies? So you need to be informed, even if you're not going to be a scientist. Of course, if you do want to be a scientist, then the nanotechnology program, the Department of Physics and Chemistry at La Trobe University is, I think, the best science degree in Melbourne. The engineering degree is, of course, an awesome engineering degree. But I've done enough pitching now, and I thank you very, very much for your attention.